Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani. Good to see you all. Thanks for tuning in every single day. Excited for you because of the information that we're providing and the impact that it's making on your life. I want to give a shout out to all of our Moving Forward members in the building. You know who you are. Your commitment to take that second step after that first initial step, which was that private marriage intensive or that last chance weekend. Your commitment to be in a program for a full year, to invest in yourself, to invest in your marriage, to produce change and transformation is something that we're excited about. To the Foundry and other members as well, good to see you here. This is your daily dose in addition to all the things that you're doing. And for everyone else, glad that you are a part of our community. We're talking from the topic today, I want this, but I won't do that. I want this, I want this marriage. I want this relationship. You know, I want it, but I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do the things that you've asked me to do. And this is the challenge, because when there's been some type of violation in the relationship, or betrayal, when you have hit hard times and both of you want the marriage, but you're not willing to do what it takes to restore the marriage, it creates a challenge in the relationship. It demotivates a person from wanting to continue. For why would they continue to endure the same hardship, the same pain, and everything that they've gone through up until this point, just to sign up for more of it? And so if you're not willing to do the necessary work, then why should your spouse stay? Like, what type of argument could you convince your spouse of as to why they should stay if it's going to be the same abusiveness, the same neglect, the same poor choices, the same emotional toxicity, the same communication problems? Why would anybody want that? So it's a commitment to the marriage, but it is not a commitment to restoring the relationship within the marriage. And so we're going to be talking about, if this is you, if you're a person who is resistant, if you're a person who has continued to double down on why it's okay for you to be who you are and how you are, this conversation is for you. So we're going to be going through some steps. Number one, you have to engage in what we call self-reflection. If you take a look at yourself and begin to think, why am I the way that I am? Why is this struggle that I'm having still present in my life? Why do I have this internal resistance from wanting to show up the right way? Why? Because in the very beginning of the relationship, where things were going well, I dotted I's, crossed T's. I was willing to give the love. I was willing to connect in ways that I'm not willing to do today. And now there is this internal resistance. And so though I don't want my relational circumstances to change, I want them to remain the same, but I also want to remain the same. I don't want to change. And the fact of the matter is, you cannot have both. And so maybe there are some fears. Maybe there are some past experiences. Maybe there are some hurts that you haven't healed from. Maybe there are some issues that have never been resolved. And because of that, you find yourself in a stuck place. And so the idea of no longer being married changes the entire world that you know of, right? Because without a spouse and without access to the kids and without a home and without a lifestyle that I've become accustomed to, life gets hard. So I'm committed to the marriage and everything that comes along with being partnered with you than I am to the relationship that I have with you within the marriage. And so that speaks into this whole idea of, I want this, but I'm not willing to do that. But I'm here to tell you that if you truly want to keep what it is that you have to be willing to show up different. You have to be willing to become different. And so one of the things I would highly recommend, because oftentimes the one who is guilty of the offense, whatever it is, at the same time may be ignorant of the impact that their behaviors have had on their spouse. Number one. Number two, they may be ignorant of what it takes to make a relationship work. So number two, educate yourself on relationships. This is critically important. If you were to educate yourselves on a relationship, you would have a better perspective for what your spouse may be sharing. And so learning about the dynamics of a healthy relationship And so oftentimes what happens is we base how we function in our relationship on what we've observed in our home as we've watched mom and dad. Or maybe we've observed what we've seen on television, or those that we are in close proximity with. And even though it wasn't healthy, and even though they weren't in a good place, we mirror what has been modeled for us. And so there's no point in reading a book, because can't no book tell me how I need to function in my relationship. I've lived life. I've read the pages of other people's lives, but maybe those books should be unpublished. Maybe those were not good examples. And so it's critically important that you take a deep dive exploration into what are the laws that govern a successful relationship. What does it mean to effectively communicate? What should gender roles look like in a relationship? What are the expectations? How do we resolve conflict? How do we begin to speak into each other's lives and meet each other's emotional needs? Educating yourself on relationships in a general sense, and then part two, really taking the time to understand your spouse. We say this all the time, study your spouse, because if you want to know how to be in a relationship, well, first of all, you have to know how to be in a relationship with the person that you are with, because what works for one person may not work for another, and that's the other challenge. Because we've been in previous relationships and assume that we know, we bring in old methods, antiquated methods, we bring in things that are no longer applicable because we're with a different person, and just because it worked for this person is no guarantee that it will work for the person you are currently with. So whether that's reading books, whether that's taking the time to listen to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, getting audiobooks, whatever that may be, going to seminars, taking classes, there is an incalculable number of options that you can engage in that will heighten what we call your relational IQ. When your relationship IQ increases, then you're laying the foundation for a healthy, long-lasting relationship. Think about it. There's different types of quotients. There is your, you have your IQ, which is really about your aptitude, your academic quotient. Then you have your EQ, right? Your emotional intelligence. But then you have your RQ, which is your relational intelligence. And dare I say, all three are critically important, but I think most people rely more on IQ than RQ. Your relational quotient, your relational intelligence is critically important if you're going to have a successful relationship. Listen, folks, we're just getting started with this conversation. I hope that you're getting something out of it. Stay tuned for a brief commercial, and we will be right back. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking from the topic, I want this, but I won't do that. All the internal resistance and unwillingness and stubbornness that people engage in, though they want their relationship. It's quite interesting. I recently did a private marriage intensive with a couple, and this is the challenge. People travel from all over the country. They get on planes. Okay, they spend their hard-earned money traveling to Atlanta to spend 3 days with us, but there's this internal resistance to want to do things their own way and not follow the protocol, not go through the steps, not trusting the process. You know, they want this, but they're not willing to do that, and so they wonder why they go back with the same problems that they came with, because there was a stubbornness and unwillingness and unteachability. They were uncoachable. They weren't willing to do the necessary work. And at the end of the day, you can hope, you can wish, you can want, you can pray, you can do all these different things, but faith without works is dead. And if you're not willing to put in the necessary work to bring about change and transformation, it is not going to happen for you. So let's go to the next step. You've got to be committed to making incremental change. Now, oftentimes people become extremely overwhelmed with the idea of making these quantum changes in their lives because they feel like they're depriving themselves. I'm giving up who I really am. This is no fair to me. I don't want to lose myself in the process. And so, interestingly enough, sometimes all it takes are little shifts, tweaks, and adjustments that has sometimes the biggest impact on our lives and our relationships. Sometimes it's a little. Someone once said, if you're taking a journey and you deviate an inch, just an inch. So if I'm headed this way and I deviate an inch over the course of time, I'll wind up over here. So if you deviate an inch, you'll lose 1,000 miles from where you were initially trying to go. But if we flip it, right? If we're willing to just make shifts and tweaks in how we think, in the things that we do, over the course of time, it could have a tremendous impact on the success of the relationship. And so the question is, how teachable are you? Are you willing to think different and to do different? What is your willingness to learn? To learn something different, to learn a new path, to learn a new course. And then what is your willingness to change? With a high willingness to learn and a high willingness to change, the probability of success is phenomenal. But when you score low in those numbers, then you're going to have a difficult ride trying to restore your marriage. So incremental change, critically important. Let's go to the next one. It's important that you learn how to set clear goals. Now, when you're in a dark place and it seems like, listen, I don't know how we're going to get out of this thing. I can't see beyond my pain. It's critically important that you have a vision for the future, that you have an idea of what you want your future outcome to look like. For if you don't have a clear destination, why would anybody want to even begin to take a journey if they don't even know where they're going? They don't know where it's going to end. They don't know how they're going to get there. So you've got to begin to start with hope. You've got to dream again. You got to begin to close your eyes, because when you open up your eyes, all you're doing is looking at the facts. And the more you look at the facts, it reminds you as to why this won't work. And so all of the greatest possibilities in life are when you begin to close your eyes, because that's when the potential, you've entered into a different realm of possibilities. And when you begin to see what you can't see with your physical eyes, when you begin to believe what the facts would tell you you're crazy to believe, when you begin to step outside of your possibilities into the realm of impossibilities, that's when amazing things can occur. So in the midst of your darkness, you've got to begin to speak life in the midst of your death. You've got to begin to speak life to your marriage and life to your spouse and life to your life and life to your future. And so if there's something possible and hopeful that we can look forward to, it will at least get me on board to beginning a process. So one of the things that we always do when we're working with couples after they've taken that first initial step is to begin to create the marriage that they ultimately want. What are the goals? What is the outcome? Let's not focus on the how. The how is irrelevant. Let's focus on the what and the why. Because if you have a strong why for getting to your what, you can endure no matter what the how may be. And when you are committed to really crystallizing that vision in your mind and holding true to it, you're going to get there one way or the other. You may not know when, you may not know how, but it becomes an inevitability. I think about Job in the Bible. He's known for saying, "My greatest fear has come upon me." So the very thing that he did not want for his life, he gave so much power and mental intensity to that it manifested. The greatest fear that was in him manifested outwardly because that is where he placed his focus. So rather than your greatest fear manifesting and coming into your life, what about what you give faith to? What about what you give your belief to? Because at the end of the day, whatever you choose to believe, you are right. So if you have a goal of what is possible and a strong belief that it can be manifested in your life, your posture, your disposition, your attitude, your energy, the way you approach situations from a space of confidence and assurity and certainty begins to kick in, and you're that much closer to where you ultimately want to be. And this is important. It's important that you have big dreams. It's important that you begin to hope again, because in the midst of your pain, there's a whole lot of doubt. There's a whole lot of insecurity. There's a whole lot of unwillingness to really do the work, because what are we doing it for? But when you can share a vision for a future, then amazing things can begin to happen. Let's go to the next one. Change your peer group. Now, this is critically important. It has been said that you are the sum total of your 5 closest friends. So if you ever want to know where you're going to be in life, take a close look at your friends. What do they do? Where are they at? Where are they going? Right? You take on the habits, you take on the customs, you take on the mindset and the behavior of those that you spend the majority of your time with. And so when you ask yourself the question, when I look at my peer group, do they have what I want? Do they today reflect what I want from my life? Or are they reinforcing more of what I currently am living in, but I don't want? There's a statistic that said the more people you have in close proximity to you, friends, colleagues, associates, that you spend time with, who divorce, it increases your probability of divorce. If all the couples that you are connected to are in conflict, most likely you'll wind up in conflict or realize, wow, we're in conflict too. So you have to get around the people who have what you want. You have to get around people who represent the answer to your question, who are the solution to your problem, because there is power in proximity. When I'm in close proximity of certain types of people, I begin to adopt and adapt mindsets, beliefs, patterns, dispositions that now begin to incorporate into my life and my relationship that makes shifts and changes. See, that's what begins to happen. And so if you're around people who are cheating on their spouse, who are not committed to a relationship, who their relationship is hanging by a thread, we're not saying reject the people. But what we're saying is maybe you should shift to finding other couples who can be an inspiration to you. We've talked about the power of 33. This is a powerful law, if you will, that suggests that 33% of the people or the couples in your life should be lower than you, because those are the ones that you're inspiring to help them to become more like you. 33% of the people or the couples in your life should be positive reinforcing peers. So listen, I'm on my journey and I'm surrounded with other people who are like-minded, who are on their journey for more and for better as well. So they're positive reinforcing peers. See, peer pressure is a good thing. It could be good or bad depending upon who your peers are. But then 33% of the people or couples in your life should be 10x where you currently are. They should have much better relationships. They should be in a much better place, because now there's someone or a couple that you are inspired by. In essence, they become like marriage mentors, and you're striving to achieve, you're striving to become, and you're striving to do based upon these models that you have around you. And so I would say if the majority of the people in your space are doing just as bad or worse than you, then you need to begin to change your environment, change your peer group, because it is essential and critical for your success. Your environment means everything. If you are a seed planted in the right environment, a harvest will produce. But if you are a seed placed in the wrong environment, nothing may ever come out. If you take an apple tree seed and place it in a bottle of beer, nothing happens. If you place it on a tile floor, nothing happens. But when you take that apple tree seed and place it in the right environment, soil, then all of a sudden the law of growth or germination begins to kick in with that seed, and then it sprouts, and then it goes through a process, and then it produces a harvest. And so your environment is critical to the success of your marriage. I hope this is making sense. We're talking about, I want this, but I won't do that. Listen, we're going to go to a quick break. Be right back. Stay tuned for more of these points. Hey guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani Pettiford. I'm an infidelity recovery specialist, and every single month, the second weekend of every month, we have our last chance weekend. Maybe you are sitting on the fence. Maybe you are on the verge of divorce. Maybe you've been vacillating back and forth, not sure what to do, but doing nothing is only making things worse. It is time to take a leap. It is time to make a decision. You are on the precipice of greatness. You're on the edge of that cliff, and guess what? You have to jump. And when you jump, it means that you're willing to do something that you've never done, but you will land on your feet. And the precipice of greatness can be manifested in your life when you take that jump and wind up in Atlanta for our last chance weekend. So if you are interested, you need to reach out to us, set up a discovery call so that we can talk to you more about what that looks like and how it can make a significant impact on your marriage. We're talking about, I want this, but I won't do that. What a perfect commercial segue, because oftentimes we want our marriage, but we're not willing to get counseling. We're not willing to get help. We're not willing to do the necessary things that will bring about change. And so the next point is, get professional help. Why would you not? Why would you attempt to do things on your own? And I see so many people, both men and women, who struggle to place their life and their marriage into the hands of an expert, someone who's helped other individuals and couples get to a final destination. And so sometimes we get in our own way. There still seems to be a stigma associated with help. Think about certain children. Some of you may have a child that you know is struggling in a particular class, a particular subject matter. And no matter how much you try to help, they don't want it. They don't want you to help them. They don't want you to look over their homework. They don't want you to help them prepare for a test. It's just like, what is the deal? I want to help you win. But something within them says, no, I don't need it. I can do it on my own. And even though they crash and burn and crash and burn and crash and burn and don't do well, they still resist what they know that they need. See, that's when you have to check your heart and check your motives and figure out, why is there these internal breaks that are keeping me from receiving what it is that I desperately know that I need, that I can't do on my own. So please, whatever you do, there are excellent professionals all over this country, all over this world. But if you have not found one, reach out to us and let's see what we can do for you. So you got to get professional help if you truly want to keep what it is that you have. And the last point I want to make to you before we go, this is critically important. You got to count the cost and you've got to understand the stakes. Listen, if you're really going to work towards the restoration of your marriage, sometimes I think we underestimate what's required. You know, the scripture says before you build a house, you need to count the cost. How much will this cost me? How much is the material? How much is the labor? What is the time commitment? What are the expectations that I should have moving in? Who's going to be responsible for making sure that all goes well? What contracts do I need, right? There's all types of things that need to be established when you're building a house. Likewise, when you're making a decision to build the marriage, count the cost. Because knowing before you dive into something is critically important. I remember having somebody come down to a last chance weekend and say, well, if I knew that I was going to have to do this, I wouldn't have came. If I knew that you were going to require me to do that. And so count the cost, folks, because there should be nothing that you're not willing to do. I can't think of a single thing, without compromising my spiritual in my legal life that I would not be willing to do to change the course of my life and to have a marriage that I've never had before. But I realize it's going to take work, it's going to take effort, it's going to take dedication, it's going to take time, it's going to take research, it's going to take me looking deeply within myself, it's going to require help. I've got to count the cost, and you've got to do that too. But on the flip side, understand the stakes, meaning, if I don't do this work, what are the potential risks associated with not doing the work? Am I willing to allow this marriage to slip through my hands? Am I willing to accept the fact that my wife or my husband will leave if I don't involve myself in the process? Have I considered what life would be like if this relationship would not work? What would the impact and the implications be short-term and long-term? You have to understand the stakes involved with not doing what you know you need to do. Really taking the time to have these internal conversations with yourself and these conversations with your spouse will allow you to come to a decision that may be fruitful for you. Listen, guys, I hope this was helpful. Tomorrow is Friday, which means it's all about you. It's Q&A day. So listen, love you. Hope you had a great time with me today, and I will see you tomorrow for another great episode. Take care. Love you guys.